Here we are. Masters with Vanquish Soul all the way from Plat. I gotta say, seriously, my hardest time with this deck was in Plat. Chat, we didn't have a single problem with diving. We didn't have a single problem getting all the way to... We literally had no problems. So some of the best things about Vanquish Soul, it's a deck that probably will never get hit on the ban list, right? It's also a deck that requires a ton of skill to play. So it feels really rewarding when you win the game. I'll even show you guys what I got here. So my Vanquish Soul deck, I'll start off by breaking it into 3 different sections. And then I'll explain why I play certain cards and all that other stuff. So there's 3 Razin, 2 Mad Love. I think that this is the correct number of Vanquish Soul monsters you should play for your starters. I've been going by something called the Principle of 5 for like, I made it up, I think like 10 years ago. And one of the biggest things about it is that you need at least 5 normal summons. But playing more than 5 normal summons inside of a 40 to 43 card deck is not necessarily optimal. Now, I understand that there are some outliers to the deck. Like, if your particular strategy, your normal summon monster can become a special summon monster, then you're good. In this particular situation, you could say both of them could be a special summon monster because you can just turn them into Rock of the Vanquisher. But that's not necessarily optimal play, I would say. From there, there's just 1 copy of Panthera. This is a card that it's a card that you want to play multiple copies of, but you don't need multiple copies of if you play it correctly. It's a really, really good card. Sometimes I will say I did miss the fact that I could destroy spells and traps, but a lot of times you use it for follow-up or you use it for the earth target in your hand. The big Vanquish Soul monsters are going to consist of, or the mid Vanquish Soul monsters, 2 copies of Xylong. Through my TCG and my Master Duel testing, 2 is the perfect number because 3 doesn't necessarily help you. Like, it's another monster that you can brick on because it can't normal summon itself. By all means, if this monster was a level 4 or lower, the entirety of the Vanquish Soul deck would be completely different. But since it isn't, this particular card is like, it's really interesting. You want it in your hand in your opening hands, and you want to be able to search one with Razin because sometimes you just need the fire target, but you never need more than that. I think that 2 is really, really good, right? Next is your real big Vanquish Souls. 2 copies of Orger, 2 copies of Valius. I think 2 and 2 is absolutely perfect. You need them to be able to dodge cards like Infinite Impermanence, Effect Veiler, and stuff like that, but you also need them for their effects. I know a lot of players have been saying, oh, it's a Borger Burn deck. It's a Borger Burn deck. That's not true. Now, granted, there are some matchups where you just like, all right, I'm just going to burn you. Like we seen earlier in today's stream, we played against Sky Striker, a deck that's ridiculously annoying. But that's actually the cool thing about this deck. It switches modes depending on what position you're in. So in that particular situation, I knew that Sky Striker was going to out-advantage me. Or if you ever play against a deck that just wants to out-advantage you for a long period of time, you put them on the clock and then you burn them to death. And then this card is amazing because not only is it a earth target, one of the better earth targets for your deck, it also is that destruction. That destruction effect does carry, especially since it doesn't target and it destroys at the end of the effect. Our support cards, you're going to see is a little weird. There's 1 copy of Fantastical Dragon Phantasme and 1 copy of Divine Carnate Kirakera. These cards are actually great small world targets, but that's not why I play them. And for the people that want to know the small world line, you small world Fantastical, you banish the Mad Love, you add the Razin, you small world the Kirakera, you banish the Ash Blossom, you add the Razin. Like that's their secondary effect. The primary effect is that this card is actually really good against decks like Mathmech. You'll be able to like reshape your hand to be able to help disrupt them on what they're doing. And Kirakera is just good against... Kirakera is a god card, seriously. It also helps that both these cards are fire and dark respectively, so they allow me to be able to use them with my Vanquish Souls in case they do become dead. Fenrir is a card that... it's one of the best cards in the game. I've often called it Cyber Dragon for the players that played back in 2005 and 2006. It's because it's literally a souped up Cyber Dragon. It forces your opponent to address it. And if they don't address it, then it becomes a very big problem. But it's also an earth target for our Vanquish Soul cards. And it can search the fire target in Rysart. You're probably wondering how many times did I actually summon Shingri Era? How many times did I actually summon Rysart? How many times did I actually summon a Big High? 0. Like, Absolutely zero. None whatsoever. I'm actually kind of upset that I didn't craft the Arise Heart in the Big Eye and stuff like that, but I had to craft the Rise Heart because this card's really important. These really aren't. For the hand traps, well, let's talk about the support cards, then the hand traps. Of course, there's Pressure Planet to be able to search Fenrir. Sometimes you do search Rise Heart because it is a Stake Your Soul target. Stake Your Soul, in my opinion, is probably the worst card in the deck because it plays into Maxi, because it plays into Ash, because the card gets returned to your hand. Like, in my head, why couldn't this just be a normal reinforcement of the army card? We would have been perfectly fine with that. It's such a bad card because it projects every single one of your moves. Like, you Stake Your Soul of Fenrir, they know, all right, yeah, whatever. You're just trying to, like, that's when I don't like it. It literally projects everything that you're going to do to a smart player. Small World, I think, is a trash card. There were some times in some games where we were like, yo, we're not even going to try to, like, do the big brain combo and memorize every single Small World line for this deck. But I will admit, when we needed it, and we needed a way to Razin, it was there. As opposed to playing cards like Crossout Designator and Call by the Grave to make us try to feel safe, we actually play proactive cards to still get into our engine. You're probably wondering why I'm not running cards like Call by the Grave. It's because hand traps don't affect me. Unless you Ash my single Razin, which, I mean, you got it. The hand interruptions is 3 Ash, 2 Nibiru, 2 Effect Veiler, 2 Imperm. In my real life deck, I think I maxed out on these, but since we got to play Maxi, then obviously Maxi. One thing that I will tell you guys about this deck is do not think that just because your hand traps are the same attribute of your required cards, that it's all gravy. These are not appropriate targets because in theory, you want to be using your hand traps as soon as possible. Obviously, there's the 1 copy of Infernable Durandal. This card came up clutch. The 1 Rhoda, clutch. The 1 Continue, clutch. No Daredevil. There wasn't a single time we missed Daredevil. To be honest, I don't think it's a bad card, but I cut it by accident and just have never went back to it. 2 copies of Impermanence, and then this probably is the best card in Master Duel, right? Snow Devil, there's actually even TCG players that don't like Snow Devil. So there's a couple of things to Snow Devil that makes Snow Devil so powerful, and the reason why I play it at 2 in Master Duel and at 1 in the TCG. The first thing is that Snow Devil makes your opponent skip their battle phase. A lot of times when they're going against Rock of the Vanquisher, they think that they can just attack over the Rock and Vanquisher or give you a particular situation where you don't, or where you have to use your cards in main phase. The smart thing to do is to let them go to their battle phase. This deck is like Dragon Link. It is a deck that if you give me your battle phase and you don't like actually do anything meaningful, I'll win the game the following turn. So a lot of times I will actually let them go into battle phase and then I'll Snow Devil the entire field, destroy everything. And then, or I'll just summon a monster like Caesar Valius. And as you know, they can't attack into the rock because Caesar Valius is a choky Yu-Gi-Oh card. You got to get over that first. This card also, the burn application, crazy. The special summon application, crazy. The preventing your monsters from being destroyed. Everything about this card is crazy. This is single-handedly the best card for Vanquisol. Everything else is just ways to get into this card so you can dismantle your opponent. 10 times out of 10, every time we activated this card, we won the game. For the extra deck, I'm not even going to lie, not a single one of them mattered. We did not summon a single one. And still in the TCG, we do pretty much the same. The only one that matters is 3 copies of Rock of the Vanquisher. Now that I'm done with all that, I'll open it up to questions. If you guys have any questions on things that I'm missing and stuff like that, go ahead. Can you explain why cards like Crow and Shifter aren't necessary? So, okay. So we were playing DD Crow in the beginning. The problem with DD Crow is that it's just like some of these other hand traps. Like if you want these hand traps to match with your attribute, don't get me wrong, that's cute. But if they're matching with your attribute and you're gaining the effects of your attribute, you're not using them for what they are, which are hand interruptions. You're not really using them to stop your opponent. And that's why I decided to drop Crow. And it's mainly because, like, let's say if Crow was as strong as Infinite Impermanence, I'd be playing Crow instead of like Effect Veiler or something like that, right? But it's not. These cards are, you know, Nibiru, Effect Veiler, Infant are just infinitely stronger. And that's why I play those. There's actually a huge divide between me and even my TCG community, because I don't think Shifter is a good card. Shifter is great if you go first, if you open it, no cards in graveyard, activated, and your opponent has to be playing a graveyard reliant deck. You can get a free win against that. I don't play for free wins. I play anytime I sit across my opponent, no disrespect to them, but I play because I'm better than them. And I'm going to win the game, and I'm not going to rely on gimmicks to win the game. That's another reason why cards like There Can Be Only One aren't here, is because it's gimmicky. It wins when it wins, and it costs you more games than people would like to realize. And it's also, good players are prepared for stuff like that. So I'm not even going to like waste my time for that. Dimension Shifter, I would side in the TCG, but I would not main in the TCG.
Are you main decking side deck cards? Sun Pixel Bob also 19 months. Another prime number DLM nice.
Am I main decking side deck cards, son? Technically, yes. The only side deck, like in my TCG experience, I've been side decking a second copy of Snow Devil. So I am main decking the side deck Snow Devil, but nothing else. Questions about the hand traps. You have 1-ofs, 2-ofs, so I'm wondering if it's a personal thing. I'm still trying to figure out my hand trap ratios by themselves and how do they come up. Okay, so, and I'm not trying to be like nitpicky with you, but technically, Fantastical is not a hand trap. It is, but it's more like a reset. You know what I mean? The card is really, really good at being able to reset. So when you play cards, you typically want them to have multiple functions. Fantastical is crazy against the Math Mech matchup because it allows you to see more cards, hopefully into your Nibiru or a Maxi or something like that, right? It's also a dark target for Small World, but more importantly, this card does prevent targeting, which cards like Effect Veiler, Infinite Impermanence like that. So it has 3 uses in this particular deck. I wanted to play more copies, but 1 was the most I can fit in here. Same thing with Kirakara. Kirakara, big board tribute. It's a Zhailong target. It's a Small World target. So like those particular cards have their functions. With the 2 Effect Veiler and 2 Infinite Impermanence, as you can see in this deck, I have a ton of cards that just summon monsters. Like, so I summon through the Thanos, Nibiru, and those get in the way of Infinite Impermanence. Fenrir can possibly get in the way of Infinite Impermanence. Vanquish, so Snow Devil, stuff like that. So I wanted to play Effect Negation because I thought it was like the best idea. So I decided to split them between Effect Veilers and Infinite Impermanence, just in case if I do get those monsters to the side of the field. I have summoned Zhailong on my opponent's turn quite a few times. I actually still have a form of disruption. Thoughts on trading Small World for Dust Devil? Don't get me wrong, I hate Small World. I think Small World is a terrible card in this deck. But as long as Pot of Prosperity is at 1, I don't think that I would trade Small World for Dust Devil, because there's been times where I didn't need Small World, right? But there hasn't been a time that I've needed Dust Devil. So it's like that. This card, Vanquish Soul Snow Devil, literally clears Kashtira. It does everything you want it to do. Yeah, I just answered your question. Oh, Patterson reposted. I don't think they have synergy with Trevor. I did, however, try Labyrinth Unchained. All right. Trap Tricks Labyrinth, they can work. I've seen players play Trap Tricks Labyrinth, but I agree with Tamias. It's not as good. If you want to submit a game, exclamation point replay, just follow the rules. It makes it easier for everybody. What are your thoughts on Red Dragon Archfiend in the current meta? Okay, if you guys want to ask those questions, we should actually set up a session for that, right?